Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming. My name is Joel Michelson, and I'm the Interim Vice Chancellor for Administrative Services and one of the executive sponsors of the UCPath program. I want to thank you all for coming. I also want to thank the probably couple hundred people who are joining this session by Zoom. If they were all here, we probably wouldn't have enough chairs, so it's good we have that option. Today, we want to go through a quick formal program, but then spend a lot of time answering any questions that come up. Here is the agenda, short and sweet, for our formal presentation. What is UCPath? You probably have some ideas about that already, I expect, but we'll try to clarify things and make them a little clearer. What's changing as a result of our switch to UCPath, and then the next steps, what we're doing to prepare for UCPath. So first, what is UCPath? Do we need to see the all the Zoom things on the screen here? I guess it doesn't make too much difference. Basically, UCPath is a new payroll, academic personnel, human resources and benefits program system that is being implemented all across the UC system. It's one system that will support all employees at all UC campuses, or 200,000 of us, believe it or not. And for the first time, all employees in the system will be on, or in the UC system will be on the same set of benefits and payroll programs. It involves establishment, or it has involved the establishment of a new center, the UCPath Center, where the operations are currently up and running. It's in Riverside. It's not on the Riverside campus. It is a ways from the campus, but it's centrally located and will provide support for all UC employees and produce all of the paychecks and so on. UCPath is a modern technology, unlike our current system. PPS, our current system, is at least 35 years old, and it relies on technology, database technology that is even older. Basically, when people ask, why are we doing this? One of the first answers is we don't really have too much choice. Not just because UCOP tells us we have to, but in fact, PPS is on life support. It's running on a 1980s vintage, great big old mainframe computer that's probably older than many people in this room. It's the sort of thing that's very expensive to keep running, and it's getting harder and harder to find people who know how to keep it running. And so sooner or later, it's going to collapse. And that would not be good for any of us. Furthermore, even while it's running, it is based on this very old technology, which relies almost entirely on human beings to do all of the error checking to make sure all the various rules, regulations, laws, and so on are being complied with, and has very few built-in controls for that sort of thing. The new UCPath system is based on much more modern database technology. It has a lot of built-in features that not only make it much easier to ensure accuracy, but also make it much easier to get out information and to, among other things, convince the various authorities that we are complying with the things we should be complying with. It's an industry standard, modern system. It's sort of finally booting us into the 21st century, almost 2 decades into the century. It also provides a lot of automation that will enhance our ability to interact directly with the other systems that feed into the payroll and benefits system. Basically, that's the what. Now we talk about the when. We are part of the first main deployment after what was referred to as the pilot deployment. The pilot involved UC Merced and UC Riverside, and they went onto the system January 1st of this year. UCOP's been on it for quite a while longer, but they don't have any students, they don't have any faculty, so their problems are much simpler than main campuses. So the system is up and running. There are campuses with employees that are getting paid successfully and have been now for 7 months since they went live. We have to be very upfront and say that those go live experiences were not painless. There were bumps, there were mistakes. We spent a lot of time talking with people from Merced and Riverside, and also talking to people at the UCPath Center to understand what went wrong, to understand what we could do either to fix the problems or at least to anticipate them and be prepared to help people make things right when they don't get paid. But by and large, everybody, even at the beginning, did get paid. And most of them got paid accurately. And in fact, the accuracy rate probably was not much lower than it is with our current payroll system. We don't know exactly what our current accuracy rate is because we can't get that information. But PPS makes mistakes, or rather, the people who use PPS make mistakes. And so while we can't claim that the transition will be painless, we have some pretty good ideas of where the pain will come. And the level of pain, we feel that it will be manageable, and we'll be doing our best to help everybody out to make it through that transition. That will happen October 1st. Your first paychecks under the new system will come out either on the 1st of October if you're a monthly employee, or the 3rd of October if you're a bi-monthly employee. After that, there will be a period of stabilization. The techno term for that is hypercare, where we'll be trying to improve everything that didn't quite go right, trying to fix it. Experience at Riverside and Merced suggests that that will take probably 3 months, more or less, so through the end of the year. But by now, they are basically very near 100% accuracy in their paychecks that are coming through the new system. To me, this seems like a pretty ideal time to go. We're not the guinea pigs. Merced and Riverside played that role for us. On the other hand, if you look at the 2019 part of that diagram there, that's a very ambitious program. If we didn't go now, you know, we could see ourselves going with the likes of Davis, Berkeley, and Irvine, or San Diego, San Francisco, Santa Cruz, Lawrence, Berkeley. It is a little intimidating being with the biggest campus, UCLA, but considering that there's no real good time, there never would be, this seems like about the best time as far as I can see. Besides, it's one of those things where at some point you got to say, it's time to get this going and get it over with. Basically, what this means to UCSB, I've talked about this a little bit already, but it really allows us to modernize and standardize a lot of business processes. Some of them, many of you are directly involved in as staff. It also allows us to interact more directly with other UC campuses and learn from them and share information and ideas with them. It also provides another level of support, both for the employees who have to use the system and for the general employee population. You know, we still, of course, have departmental staff and supervisors who are often, not always the first line of defense if there are problems. We still have our central resources in HR, academic personnel, and payroll office. But now we have another set of options at the UCPath Center. The first is direct contact. They have a whole phone bank system there, and you can call and log in complaints or log in questions if you're using the system. And they have implemented a new web-based portal it will be available to all employees in late September. That allows you to log on. It's somewhat like AYSO, if you're familiar with that, but it's more updated. It's web or mobile friendly and gives you a lot more information, access to more information about your own system. That's one of the important points for the individuals. It does provide you for improved access to your information and on employment and benefits from basically anywhere. You will get a new employee ID number. I don't know if that's a big deal to people or not. I've worked here for over 35 years and I've never known my employee ID number, but some people maybe do and will be have their lives a little bit disrupted by that. An important point, if you do not have direct deposit, paychecks, paper paychecks will be produced in Riverside and mailed to home addresses through the U.S. mail. If you're comfortable with that, fine, but you might want to give serious consideration to signing up for direct deposit if you don't already do that. Furthermore, there will be 2 W-2 forms in 2018, one from your PPS employment, one from your UCPath employment. Here again, if you have not signed up or given the approval to get your W-2 forms online and are still relying on the mail, you might want to think about making that change as well. In both cases, the mail is not that secure anymore, and so, and of course, it's much more convenient to get things directly online. What's changing, I think I will turn it over to Cindy Doherty here, our Director of Academic Personnel, to talk more about that. Cindy?
Great, thank you all for being here today. I'm going to just expand a bit on a few things that Joel already mentioned, namely the UCPath Center and also the portal, because for all of us as employees, those really are probably 2 of the biggest changes is how we're going to interact and get information and the kinds of things that we can now do for ourselves that up until this transition, we've had to rely on others on campus to do for us. So I want to spend just a few minutes talking about some of those things. So Joel mentioned the UCPath Center, and this is the center that's down in Riverside. They are responsible for all of the transactional activity, such as cutting paychecks. And Jim will talk a little bit later about some of the other payroll-related things that they're going to be doing. But their center down there, the idea really was to centralize all of the transactional activity as far as generating paychecks, talking about benefits, giving benefit advice, some of those kinds of things. I think you may have heard over the years there has been talk about, oh, the UCPath Center is going to come and that means we're going to lose jobs on campus and everything's moving to the UCPath Center. What we have very quickly found out through this process is that really it means we need more work on campus. This is not replacing anything. This is really supplementing what we do here on campus. So we are not losing jobs. People will still have plenty to do. It's just some new ways of doing business, and we have a new player. We have the UCPath Center involved. So that is where you will go for certain kinds of inquiries and to do certain kinds of things, and through the rest of the presentation we'll be talking a little bit more about what some of those things are. But again, I think the really important thing to stress is that this is an additional resource for employees. It is not a replacement of those of us on campus or in your departments that you normally go to for help. It's really an additional way that we can do things. The UCPath portal that Joel also mentioned is sort of a replacement of At Your Service, AYSO, but not completely. So there are a few things that will still be done through AYSO, and those are noted here at the bottom of the slide. Retirement information, to update your beneficiaries, and to access older W-2s. Those are things you will still do through AYSO. But the new portal gives you the ability to really manage your information. If you want to do things like change your home address, add a dependent, if you've had a baby and you need to add that baby to your insurance plans, you can do all of that yourself. So a lot of things that in current state you have to work with campus individuals to do, you can really take control of that and do that when you want to on your own. Again, that doesn't mean the resources go away. If you have questions, you're not sure about policies, you're not sure about how to navigate through something, you can still come to the campus resources, or you can contact the UCPath Center through the portal and ask the questions there. The portal also is where individuals who are actually transacting in the system, entering things into the system, will go. For the general discussion today, we're really focusing on all of us as employees, not as transactors, but it is the same place. So it's really one-stop shopping in terms of all of your needs for your payroll and benefit and personnel related activities. So a little bit more about the UCPath Center. As I've said, they really are intended to be the first point of contact for certain kinds of information, and those are listed here. I'm not going to read through the whole list. But what we want to make clear is understood is even though that is eventually where your first point of contact will be, as Joel mentioned, during our transition, we really expect that during the fall quarter, between the time we go live in September, October, on through the end of the year, there's going to be a lot of questions. Things are going to look different, things are going to get to you in different ways. And so if you have issues during that time, we're going to be doing a lot of work in terms of setting up guidance about where to go with your questions, who to ask, how to get your problem solved. And a lot of that communication, you'll see, will still say to start with people here on campus. Even though this list says your first point of contact will be these places, during that transition period, that's not necessarily true for some of these kinds of activities. On the other hand, for some things right off the bat, it will be, and the benefits is a good area where that really is true if you want to transact a change in your benefits. And Cynthia's going to talk about some of those things a little bit later. We also, for the UCPath Center, they are, and through the portal, they are asking that they have their main way that they would like people to interact with them is actually through the portal. So you go onto the portal, you sign in using your UCSB Net ID, and then you can open a conversation with someone. They do also have phone contact, and they will also use email, but they really would like folks to use the portal because once you go into the portal, you can get a lot of information as well. Forms are there, informational pieces are there. So that really is the focus of the main way of having contact, but it's not the only way. The other question that we've had come up quite often is about support in languages other than English. We do know that the center is staffed to help in Spanish. They have Spanish-speaking folks on staff there who will handle those questions and those inquiries. Beyond Spanish and English, we're not real sure. That gets a little more complicated because they're obviously smaller populations when we get to other languages. So they are aware that that's a need, and my guess would be as more campuses come on board that they'll continue to find ways to address that. But we do know for certain that there will be support for our Spanish-speaking employees. It's also interesting to note, I think, down at the bottom, just the fact that 20% of the staff there have worked on campuses. So it's not a completely, it's not a call center off somewhere where nobody has any concept of what goes on a campus. They have people embedded who have been out in our world and who are sharing that experience with the others that are at the center so that they have an idea of what it really is like to be here and to be able to relate to the questions that are coming to them. The portal, the other thing that's really nice, and Joel also mentioned this, is that we are moving into the modern technology. And so you will have a lot of ways that you can access information and look at it. It's mobile friendly, you can do it through any kind of computer that you would like to. It's listed here the kinds of things that you can access. So you can see your paychecks there. If you're getting them, not your paychecks, but your pay statement. You can look at your personal information and do the updates to that, all of your benefits information, and then your leave balances will also be available through this system. So you'll be able to go on at any time and pull up your vacation and sick leave balances and see what those are as well. This will all become live. We are hoping on the 27th of September. That's our target date. And the reason for that date is that it's just a little bit ahead of those October 1 and October 3rd paychecks. So that will allow you to go on the 27th. If you are a monthly employee getting paid on the 1st, on the 27th, you can go on and see your pay statement. For those getting paid on the biweekly, it'll be a few days later just because of how the pay cycles work. But that'll give you the opportunity to go on there and see it before that first pay actually shows up, and be able to identify if there are any issues, and then follow those pathways that we'll be giving you in terms of where to go for help if you have problems. So that is all I'm going to say at the moment. I'm going to turn it over to Cynthia Cineris, the Human Resources Director, and she is going to talk with you a bit. Oh, we're going to Jim next. I'm sorry. We're going to Jim Corkill. I got us out of order. Jim Corkill, the controller, and he's going to talk about payroll-related issues, and then we'll have Cynthia after Jim.
Good afternoon, everybody. How you doing? Hey, you're alive. You're still awake. Good. Stay with me. I appreciate everybody being here today. Just like Cindy said, did you guys ever see, this was a while back, maybe about a year ago, but they had this dress and nobody could tell what the color of the dress was? So when we're doing all these communications, sometimes when you're reading them, somebody's seeing gold, somebody's seeing blue, right? So I appreciate you taking the time to be here because we can add a lot more. We can put some context to some things, and I think it'll really bring it home for you. So when this comes, it'll just be another day for you. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the things that are going to happen with payroll. Most of these bullets you can read. The last two are the ones I want to hit on for now, because the first 4 or 5, I'm going to have a slide going forward. But the one on the single pay cycle for student employees, right now, if you're a student employee and you have multiple jobs, there are times when you are paid on the biweekly and the monthly. That will no longer be okay with PeopleSoft, and there are FLSA issues as well. So if there's questions on that, I will hand that over to Cynthia. But if you're a student, one of the things you have to realize, if you do have 2 jobs and you're on 2 different cycles, that will change going forward. Also, once you go to the portal, which we've talked about a little bit, which is really, right now you go to AYSO, right, to see your earnings statement if you're not getting a pay stub or something like that. Going forward, you're going to go to the portal. That's where you'll get your W-2s going forward. And then that's where you also get your earning statements as well, okay? Okay, so the first time we're going to pull this, I think NASA says our first attempt at success in production will be October 1 for the monthly pay and October 3rd for the biweekly. We're all in a system-wide payroll calendar. I'm going to talk a little bit about that later. And both Cindy and Joel have alluded to the paper check, right? So the paper checks will be, as far as I know right now, will be mailed the day before payday. So you're relying on the mail services to get you that check. So you'd probably receive it a day after, okay? And the pay statements you'll be able to view in the new portal, just like you do now. You can go to AOSO now and see your pay stub, I think a couple days or a day before payday. You can see what that looks like as well. So same business there as well. You can't see this, can you? If you can't, your driver's license is revoked, right? I'll go through, I just want to hit on a couple of these. So basically your paycheck's going to look different, okay? $5. $5, whose ever phone that is, that goes to the kitty. New employee ID number, we've talked about this, but it's important. So we don't know the exact date yet, but you will find out your new employee ID number when we go in production, somewhere roughly September 26, 27, 28, somewhere around there. That's when you'll log in and you'll find your employee ID number. That's the first time you'll see it, okay? Wanted to hit on that. I also wanted to hit on your pay stub, you'll see your vacation and sick balances, what you've used that month, and then you'll also see the balances as well in your pay stub. And I think the rest is pretty self-explanatory. Yeah. Okay, so we talked a lot about paper paycheck distribution, but I want to focus a little bit more on this. So right now, how it works current state, we print the checks in our office, mail services comes and picks them up, brings them to the department, and they hand them out, right? That's current state. Current state, we will no longer have the ability to print checks here. We'll be able to print AP checks, but not payroll checks. So that's one of the big differences, right? So our ability to turn around same-day checks has changed considerably. That's really one of the things we really want to hammer home. They will be mailed to your address on file, which is whatever's currently in PPS. That's what will be transferred over to UCPath. I'm looking at this quickly. They're telling you if you haven't received your check after 5 days from mailing date, I bet anything you'll be calling sooner than that. But they're saying, you know, call after 5 days. I'd be calling after 2, but okay. There'll be 2 addresses that you can update in UCPath. There's a home address and a mailing address. The home address will be specifically for benefits, and the mailing address will be for where the paper paychecks go, okay? Okay, direct deposit. One of the nice things about direct deposit, and for your information, I think for staff, we're like at 94% of the campus right now currently gets direct deposit. But what we want to make sure is if you're on direct deposit, make sure you've got it updated and you want to go to direct deposit in UCPath, that you have it updated by July 31st, which I'm doing some quick math here. Today's late July. It's soon, right? So I'm glad you're here. If you want to go to direct deposit, please sign that up, because that's what will be converted from PPS to UCPath, that information. If you're already signed up, there's nothing you have to do. What's nice is with UCPath is you'll have the ability to take your net earnings, you know, what's left, what you get paid after the tax man takes your money, right? You'll be able to have 3 different direct deposit accounts to put that money to. And so this is where I'm going to talk real slowly, because I want to word this right, because we've had a lot of confusion on this, and it's not a lot of you, so I'm going to go slowly. But if you have direct deposit right now, you're signed up for direct deposit, and your net earnings are going to the Golden One Credit Union, like the main part of your check, going to Golden One, you're fine. Okay, take a deep breath. Now, let's say you're signed up for direct deposit and it's going to Chase or B of A, and you've elected to have a little piece go to Golden One. That's the piece that is done manually right now. When you have that little bit of the deduction taking out, we are actually, as sad as this sounds, you know, the system is 35 years old. For those folks who have been asked to have a Golden One deduction, not a direct deposit, but a deduction, we actually accumulate all that, send a check to Golden One with your names, and they deposit it. Horrible workaround, but we were asked to do that. And so I came here 19 years ago, and this was already in place. So this has been going on for a long time. We're taking questions and answers after this if you're confused. That's a hard one to explain, but thankfully it only affects about 200 people. But what you're really going to want to do is once you get to that, the first time you get into the employee self-service, we want you to update. You've got 3 direct deposits, right? If you have a Golden One deduction, we want you to add that to your direct deposit. So I have good business as usual, okay? Okay, benefit holiday. When you currently, if you're on the biweekly and how we split up deductions, you know, we'll cut them in half, right? You'll take half that first check, half that second check. Well, some of those months you have that third check, right? And what do you do with that third check? You have a lot of fun, right? Because that's the one, there's 2 months a year where you get like this bonus, right? Okay. So going forward, we're on this same calendar. So that's why we just had a recent one where you thought you were going to have a great month and there was going to be a benefit holiday July 11, right? But we're going to UCPath, so that got moved to Halloween. Kind of creepy, but that's going to be Halloween, right? So that got moved to there. That's a good thing though. Just don't spend the money on anything weird or extra costumes. Just be good with it. Okay, Joel's talked about this a little bit, and this is just for clarity. The system is using industry standards when they're doing their calculations and their percentages. We're using an application that is homegrown, 30 odd years old at best, maybe probably much older. And there's going to be rounding issues right now. And when we're doing conversion and testing, our tolerance is a nickel, 5 cents. So if you're off a couple cents, 3 or 4 cents, don't wig out. That's just different calculations that are happening there, okay? Okay, we've talked about this before too, but I want to hammer this home. Next January, you will receive 2 W-2s. You'll receive one from UCSB for January through September with our tax ID, and then from October to December, you'll receive a W-2 with a different tax ID from the UCPath Center from the University of California. And then going forward, you'll just get the one from the UCPath Center. We have to do this because right now, when we distribute the money to the IRS and the feds, we're using our tax ID. So that's how we have to report on that. Once we move over to UCPath, they'll be using a different tax ID. So there's no way to really do this easily other than administer 2 W-2s. Okay, for final pay, quickly, I know there's probably not a lot of processes here and more just staff. They're not guaranteed to receive their final pay within 72 hours, which is a great thing for a lot of us. I remember when we had to start to comply with this, and it was a burdensome administrative staff load. And going forward, especially for the non-reps, it'll just be paid on their next normal pay cycle, and it'll be paid if they're on direct deposit. It'll be paid as direct deposit as well too, which is nice. If it's represented employee, it's going to be based on whatever that bargaining union contract has in place at that time. Now, Cynthia's going to come up.
Hello, good afternoon. So let's talk about benefits and how the UCPath implementation is going to impact what many of you are very accustomed to in terms of the annual open enrollment, or perhaps when you've had to, over the course of your career here, make some changes to your benefits. So you've heard Cindy and Joel and Jim talk about the UCPath Center and the UCPath Portal. Both of those will have important roles in our future state when it comes to what you think about in terms of benefits. The UCPath Center staff will be able to answer questions around eligibility, premiums, and enrollment. Does that mean that you immediately on day one after UCPath's implemented have to go to the center? No. But I do think that probably over time, gradually, they will start to have a more prominent role in answering questions around benefits eligibility, premium, and enrollment. It's going to be a natural process. But initially, the staff in HR are going to be available, and they're going to be equipped to answer your questions. Now, the portal is going to allow you to do some things that in today's current state, you actually do with a piece of paper. So if you have a life event that would include marriage, new baby, etc., oftentimes if you've ever had to do it, you've come to HR and you filled out a You Pay 850 form. So in the future state, all of that's going to be handled online. You'll be able to submit that information, on a Sunday evening when you have time to do that, and the portal is going to be able to relay that information and help expedite the update in the UCPath system tables so that those benefits can become effective much quicker. And then for all of you, anybody who's been employed at UC for a year or more, you've gone through open enrollment, and you would have used the AYSO, the At Your Service website, to make your benefit elections. And so once we go to UCPath, you'll just simply go to the UCPath portal, and make your elections there. So other than it looking different, it will be and continue to be an online process. For benefits administration, when we talk about that, it's really kind of like the back office work. That's a lot of the things that HR currently does. We take those enrollment forms and we actually update the system so that vendors can then receive the information. HealthNet can know that they've got new subscribers and ID cards can be issued. And so in the future state, that benefits administration, since you're interacting directly with the portal, the UCPath Center is going to be involved with that. They're also going to be involved in premium issues or payments. So if questions come up about, well, why was my premium payment X number of dollars, I thought it was going to be Y, they'll be the ones to kind of look into that and answer those questions. And if they need to kick it back to the campus for more information, we're certainly available to help with that. Life insurance claims doesn't happen that often, but when a claim needs to be processed currently, Human Resources handles that. In the future state, the UCPath Center will do that. And we also expect them to take a role in notifying employees around benefits. So in the future state, we will continue to offer a new employee benefits orientation. We won't stop doing that, but the new employee, if they're benefits eligible, will also be receiving information from the UCPath Center around their benefits. So they're going to get, as Cindy has said, we're going to continue to provide our services, and in many ways, the UCPath Center and the portal will supplement what we currently do today. Now, specifically for enrollment, the UCPath portal, when our employees, whether they're current or our future employees, when they interact with the UCPath portal, it's often going to be centered around benefits. So if you are a current employee right now, once we go migrate over to UCPath, your current benefit elections are going to stay exactly the same. You don't have to worry about going into the portal and doing anything around your benefits. That's fine. What I'm talking about now in terms of enrollment is in the future. So for example, during open enrollment, as we've said already, you'll be using the UCPath portal to make your election changes. One of the things about how they've set this up in the portal is that during that open enrollment period, which is like 3 weeks and some days typically, you'll actually be able to go in there on a Monday and make some elections, and then if you change your mind on Wednesday, you can go back in as long as you're still within the open enrollment period. So they do allow some flexibility there. But if, say, in the future state, once we are live with UCPath, if you have a life event where you want to add a new baby, for example, you have what we call a period of initial eligibility. That's 31 days to enroll the new baby. One of the things that we just want to mention, and you'll hear more communication around this won't be the only time you hear it, is that during that period of initial eligibility, you will be required to go into the UCPath portal to let the university know that you want to add a new dependent. But you will only be able to do that one time. Once you hit that submit button, you're done. So we want to make sure, that's why we're going to continue to offer information around benefits. We also will encourage people to contact the UCPath Center directly if they would like to do that, but make sure employees have ample opportunity to ask questions around the enrollment, because it would be very complicated if you hit submit and then you turned around later and said, oh, I need to make a change. That was an error. So we want to avoid having that happen in the future. But my main point with enrollment is that there will be some changes in the future state, but as part of the conversion process, you do not need to worry about doing anything regarding your benefits. So next steps, preparing for UCPath. What we have here are 5 things we want you to keep in mind in the next 60-some days before we go live. Some of these things we want you to do sooner rather than later, as Jim explained in terms of the direct deposit. We would like to have you log into AYSO and just check, if you haven't done it recently, is all of your information in there current? If you could do that, that would be great. If you haven't signed up for direct deposit, it'll allow you to do that. If you haven't already said you wanted to receive your W-2 electronically, it'll allow you to check those boxes so that you can do that. AYSO will be available after July 31st, but the problem is that that's the deadline that we want to encourage everyone to go in and make those changes to ensure that the snapshot and for conversion is going to capture those changes in there. And then as Jim just explained regarding Golden One credit union deduction, to just keep that in mind, because you will have to make some arrangements for the October payment if that's how you rely to perhaps make a car payment or some other loan that you have arranged with Golden One. I won't say anything more because that is not my area of expertise. So that's our checklist. We hope you keep that in mind. If you have any questions around that, obviously the three of us are available to try to help answer those specific questions. And now we will have time to open up for more general questions. You can always learn more regarding UCPath. You can reach out to your manager, supervisor, reach out to HR, academic personnel, business and financial services. We've got lots of flyers in the lobby area. If you've walked past those on the way in, make sure you pick something up on the way back. There definitely will be more communication as we get closer. This will not be the only time you hear this information. So with that, let's open it up for some questions. I'll invite my colleagues back on the stage. I do not want to take this on all by myself.
So we have a first question from Zoom, which is, if you are already signed up for electronic W-2s, do you need to re-sign up for electronic W-2?
No. No, if you already have indicated that you want to receive your W-2s electronically, you do not need to do anything.
Will whatever you have set up as deductions from your paycheck, will it just automatically roll over? Will whatever you have set up currently for deductions, say for 403B, that type of thing, will that automatically roll over? Or do you have to go back in?
You're good.
And
Yes, the only deduction that anybody needs to be worried about is if they have a Golden One credit union deduction.
okay, so anything else that's currently set up will automatically roll over.
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks.
Any questions?
Any other thoughts? What are you thinking about?
We have one
That
from
we should know.
We have one from Zoom. When you get your new employee ID, will you receive a new employee ID card, a new access card?
I am not probably the best person to answer that question, but it's my understanding that the implementation of UCPath will not require the ID cards to be replaced in probably like 95% of the situations. And I think those few departments that may be impacted, they already know who they are. That's my understanding.
Question. Is the W-2 electronic delivery required at this point, or can you still get it manually?
Yeah, it's not required. Yeah. Just make sure if you're going to get it sent that we're sending it to your address. So make sure that your address is up to date. Yeah.
Hi, I'm not sure if the other person asked this question. I didn't hear the answer. Are we going to be getting new cards then, new access cards, since we're getting a new number?
It's my understanding that for most employees, that is not going to be necessary.
Yes, if you're using your card for door access, it will still work. There's a small group of people, and they're being notified already that will need a new card for their work duties, but otherwise you're fine. For Kronos as well, yeah.
Well, and could I just add that, this could be department specific, so please, if you're worried about that, ask your supervisor, and that question can work its way up through your organization.
We have wait for that. Wait. I mean, if we don't use the microphone, please. Thank you. If we don't use the current employee ID number for anything now, as Dr. Michelson said, is there any reason we're going to need to use the new one, and we're just going to be assigned a new number?
Yeah, no, I mean, if you're not currently using it for anything, then, I mean, other than perhaps, again, it's an identifier, if you're in the portal, we're not coming up with new reasons to use the ID number.
We have a question from Zoom. So will there be an overlap with UCPath and PPS? And if so, for how long will the systems interface and be updated?
There's not really an overlap, but for 4 months after go live, PPS will be available to do payroll transfers. That's it.
And then we have another question around the employee ID again. Will it affect our library ID? Should we keep our current number for the library? I don't think so. And
We'll have to answer that later. I honestly don't know. I haven't heard.
I do know that the library is involved in this process, so I think if there was a change, they would be aware of it. We have one more question over here. Will we still be tracking our time in Kronos?
Absolutely, yes.
And then one more. Will the new employee ID affect the travel system? I'm guessing Connexus, probably?
That's a good question. It will, but we're working on that right now. So it still will be single sign-on, so everything should be okay with the travel system. Yeah.
And that ID.
Again, the new employee ID, the HR logon is our old employee ID. Is that going to change?
If you're referring to the Oasis system, then no, you'll still be able to use your old ID to log on. We won't require you to change that.
One more.
Hi, quick question. So about flex cards. So when we have our credit cards, when we get new ones, they ask us for our social security number, but we've been told we're supposed to use our employee ID. But since we're getting a new employee ID, are we using that number now when we do our new flex cards?
Yeah, there'll be a transition time where they'll be using both, but we will transition to the new employee ID. Yeah.
Thank you.
Then we have two more over here. So after everything is converted, what are the things that AYSO will still be used for?
So after we migrate to UCPath, AYSO, is my understanding, is still going to be available. You can look at your old earnings statements there. You'll be able to access your old W-2s. You'll be able to update, I believe, your beneficiaries. And then if you're a retiree, you can still continue to access it. Did I miss anything? Retirement. Oh, and access your retirement, yes, as you do today.
Will the new employee ID affect benefits? Some providers require an employee ID.
You mean like when you, well, I'm sorry, that's a Zoom question, so you want to know. Okay. Yeah, let's put that on the things to find out, just to make sure that, yeah, that base is covered. If you need to provide, so the question is, well, we need to provide a new employee ID after we migrate when it comes to communicating with some of our benefit vendors. Okay.
And I do want to mention that we are collecting all these FAQs and they're on the website, the ucpath.ucsb.edu. So a lot of these things are actually already there in the FAQ section, but we'll add anything that we don't have the answer for today. One more. So this is a question around training, I believe. So it says, if employees are unable to attend some of the training, will there be makeup sessions? Okay, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to try to be a little more clear. So we work in mail services, and when we have a time clock, and we punch in in Kronos, yeah. So we punch in our current number to log our time. So when we get a new number, will we be using the new number or the old number?
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely in the process of retrofitting all the systems, and Kronos is a key part of this project. So what I can't tell you is, like, as of what day will you start using that new number, but you would be using your new employee ID number once it's issued.
Yeah.
Will we need to get new access cards once we get our new numbers?
We'll definitely look into it, but it's my understanding that that is not going to be an outcome of the UCPath implementation. You will not be required to get new access cards, but because we've had so many questions about this, we will certainly dig deep and try to understand exactly what types of situations would require a new access card. I believe.
Any more?
Well, you know where to find us. You know how to reach us. If you have any other questions, we're happy to answer them all the way up and then after we go live. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.